Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I have been getting a lot of questions about how to keep your makeup on during the summer days, or just in general if you're having like a really long day. Say if you're going to a wedding or something and you need your makeup to last from the morning all the way until you're about to wash it off, like 12+ hours later. I actually have to get somewhere right now, so I'm just doing this intro really quickly. But basically, this is like my foolproof tutorial on all the steps that I use to ensure that my makeup stays on my face. And I may sweat through my makeup a bit. All I do is just kind of like dab throughout the night, dab away the sweat, and I'm telling you, like, it stays all night. A lot of you guys notice, like in the vlogs, where I'll like put on my makeup in the morning, and then when I come home to end the vlogs, like my makeup still looks intact and exactly how I applied it. And this is the technique I use every single time, so I really hope you enjoy this video. If you're just checking out my channel for the first time, please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't already. And if you enjoy tutorials like this, then give this video a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. But without further ado, if you guys want to see your foolproof makeup tutorial, not really tutorial, just kind of like how to make your makeup stay as long as it can, then just keep on watching. The first thing I'm doing is going in with a primer. Obviously, primer is super important. I'm using a hydrating one. This one is by Smashbox, and I'm just smoothing out all over my face. You could totally use, like if you have oily skin, you could use something like a mattifying primer, which I do actually go in with afterwards. But I just really like how this feels, gives a little extra boost of hydration. But as you can see, I am taking my Cover FX mattifying primer. And I'm kind of just putting this in the places that I normally get oily. So I'm patting this on the sides of my nose, my chin, and then right above my brows, because for some odd reason that place gets super oily. And yeah, you just want those places to be matte. And then I went in color corrected just off camera. And for foundation, this is super important. You want something that is mattifying. So the one that I love is the Lancome Tintidol, but also another drugstore alternative is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. Literally one of the best drugstore foundations I've ever used. But I just went with the Lancome one because it matches my skin tone a bit better. And I'm just using my beauty blender to kind of dab that all over my face. I just kind of sped through this because y'all see this a ton of different times, but I don't put a ton of foundation. I feel like I don't need that much foundation, but then also if I put a lot on, it just kind of melts off my face, especially when it's kind of hot. So I just do this just to even out my skin tone. And then of course I do go in with concealer. My favorite one is the Too Faced Born This Way. It's a lot more hydrating. The concealer doesn't really matter as much. It's really important that the foundation is matte, so that it does obviously, you know, remain long wearing and everything, but concealer doesn't really matter that much. I do, however, go in with two different concealers, one for just sort of hiding the dark circles, but then another one for like highlighting, just to bring some brightness into my face, because why not? And I always use my beauty blender for basically everything that has to do with my face, so I'm just kind of dabbing that all into my skin right now. And then this is probably the most important part, but baking is your best friend, let me just tell you. So I'm using the Ben Nye banana powder, but as you saw earlier, I also use the RCMA no color powder sometimes. But the banana powder is a little more drying, which is actually good in this case because it makes sure that, you know, the oils are absorbed and everything. So the first thing I do is use my damp beauty blender and just kind of pat that into my concealer just to kind of set it. I don't bake at this point. I do go in and bake afterwards, but I'm just showing you guys right now. But for around my smile lines, which is probably the one place that always creases, like no matter how much I bake, but I do pile this on because if I don't bake around my mouth at all, then it's just a hot mess. But as you can see, I am going back in with the banana powder under my eyes with a little more product, and I do actually bake at this point. And if you're not sure what baking is, basically just put a bunch of translucent setting powder above like the places where you put like concealer or everything or foundation, and it just sort of sets that foundation. Or concealer, the liquid, and I also bake on top of my brows because, as I mentioned earlier, my brows get super oily for some reason, and then I just make sure to kind of brush it through so my eyebrows don't look ashy as fuck. And then just to sort of bring that warmth back in, because baking sort of does
I don't know, kind of make your skin look a bit ashy, at least if you're a deeper skin tone like myself. I'm just going in with the Too Faced Dark Chocolate Soleil Bronzer, my favorite. Instead of an eye primer, I've been doing this a lot lately and I actually like it a lot more. Instead of actually using a liquid eye primer, I just take my Studio Fix powder, I believe it's called, by MAC, and I just use a sort of dense brush and I pack this onto my lid. I did have concealer and foundation on my eyelids before, so this kind of just makes sure it sets in place and there's no creasing. And then to wipe off the bake on my mouth, I just use this flat top kabuki brush and just sort of buff it in. I don't really wipe it away too much. I still want that kind of dryness per se, because in the summer months I do get a little more hot and oily. And then just to make sure it doesn't look too ashy, I go back in with my Too Faced Dark Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. And so that's basically the base. I just went in and finished the rest of my makeup. Then what I also do is take this sort of powder, I forget what this is called, it's like the HD powder by Makeup Forever. And I use sort of a dense packing brush to pat around the sides of my nose and then right above my brows, also under my mouth, because those are the places that I do get a little more oily, as I've mentioned several times already. But this just ensures that like those places will not get oily throughout the day. And then last but not least, setting your makeup, super, super important. I use the Urban Decay All-Nighter Spray. I find that this really, really helps keep everything on, and that's basically it. Guys, I don't want to talk too loud, but it is literally 5 a.m. in the morning, and I've had this makeup on for over 12 hours, and I just wanted to show you guys how it held up. So when I say that this makeup is foolproof, it is foolproof. I've been dancing, I've been talking to people, and it still looks pretty amazing, even up close. I do have some smile lines, but that literally always happens, but it's honestly not even as bad as it could be. But yeah, definitely a foolproof makeup tutorial.